Hey, all, Andy here, helping you build a career you love. Great to see you today. Welcome to the show. Today, we're going to be talking about something silly employers tell you in a job interview. That situation where you get into an interview and the interviewer says something ridiculous to you, actually makes a statement that you're overqualified. Who has heard this before? Who's had this happen to them? And let's be honest, can we just call it what it is? It's a veiled concern about your fit, your motivation, your longevity with the company, your age, your compensation. Pick any and all of those. You know it to be true because there's absolutely zero reasons to say that to somebody. Because what would be going through my head is, well, if I'm overqualified, what the hell are you doing interviewing me? Why are we even talking? Right? That's what I would think. And if I was any of you that are interviewing people, can you please do me the favor of not saying that? Because if that's actually a concern, if you actually have a concern about something like one of those 5 things I just ripped off, then why not say, look, you have fantastic credentials. Why would you want this particular job? And give the person, whoever's interviewing there with you, a chance to explain it, right? Because obviously they're interested, at least in your company, if not that particular role. So who's had this happen to them? Jerry Ann, oh, look at you guys. Catherine, Gary, what's up? LG, Martin B. So we know this is a common thing. I know this is a common thing because I get asked about it a few or 3 or 4 times a week. So I know it's important. That's why I wanted to bring it to you. So what I have today are, let's call them 3 or 4 tips. And it's these tips to me. I mean, when I think about this, my reaction as I was putting this talk together is the first thing that would be going through my head is I'm out, right? Thanks for wasting my time. But that doesn't do you any good. And we're not in the business here of sitting around commiserating and moaning about what employers do. I'm in the business of helping you. So should you want to salvage this, I do have 3 or 4 tips. And what I want to say about the tips is it's not a say this first, then say this second, then say this third, then say this fourth. These tips are really about combinations or pieces of thoughts and expressions and tactics and approaches that you could use depending on your particular situation, what it is you're interviewing for, how it is the interviewer approached you with this commentary. Because any of these will be great in most situations, and combinations of what I'm going to tell you are going to be really good. So depending on the flow of your dialogue, pick and choose what you like of these items. Consider it like a menu of options that you have to choose from. All right, so the first thing is you're in an interview, you're overqualified. Now, there's a few things that I want you to focus on, mostly aimed at the company. So let's run through these really quick. Your interest in the company, right? My coach, Andy, says, I join a company, I don't join a job. Right? Express, I'm interested in your mission. I'm interested in your product. I'm interested in your services. I have a real passion for, right? I am not haphazardly going about my job search, right? I'm interested in your mission, right? I'm a long-term thinker. And speaking of, I have long-term goals aimed at supporting your mission or your vision or your product or your service. One thing you can do here when you talk about the long-term goals, in a few years, I see myself working in a capacity where in 5 years, don't even bother asking me the question, I'm going to tell you right now, I see myself. And then you want to use language that talks about your trajectory. And if you want more on that, I do have a video on my YouTube channel about where do you see yourself in 5 years. If I wasn't so lazy and put the card in, it would be up in the upper right-hand corner. But since I don't usually do that, just search my channel for 5 years. It'll pop up, and then you'll know what it is if you want that language. And the other thing around this, when you focus on the company, you focus on the mission, I targeted you because... right? So I'm being thoughtful about my search. It's not just about a job for me. It's about you, the company. And I'm concerned, I'm interested in, it's my passion to, it's my goal to get in your organization. Make it about the company. Because at the end of the day, it is, right? If you join the right company, you don't have the job you joined for very long. And I mean that in a good way, because great companies know how to elevate their employees. And so I'm interested in you overall. This is a big one. You need to have this down cold. And this entire approach, whether it's an overqualified situation or whatever it might be, you need to be able to answer the question, why do you want this job? Why do you want to work at our company? Why this position? Whatever they might ask you, you know that's another question that's going to come out early. So you want to get that out. Now, the you're overqualified is probably not going to come out early. Right. So what your best tactic here is, when you get into the interview and they start warming you up with the softball questions, you can open up with this right away. And I want you to be thinking throughout the entire interview, even if you go in thinking, I know I'm overqualified, or I know they're going to think I'm overqualified, or I'm worried they're going to say this to me. I want you to always be approaching things, even if you want to explicitly say this to them in the wake of, we think you're overqualified. Well, you're interviewing me for a reason. I would love to know what about my background piqued your interest, because I would want to be getting them focused on what value you can bring. And while that in and of itself can be a tactic, saying that to them and then working it from there, but I just want you to approach everything in that manner. So, interest in the company, bang on this one, number one. Second thing is, and here again, in no particular order, this could come out early, right? There's an issue that you're going to be bored, or it's your salary. Okay, so how do you approach this issue? I'm a little concerned you're overqualified. I'm not sure we can pay you enough. Or another way of them to saying this is, what's your salary requirements? I'm so worried because I think looking on paper, it looks like you make a lot of money, right? So anything that's related to this, boredom, salary, we're worried we're not going to be able to satisfy you, right? This could be an issue, right? They may be saying you're overqualified, but what they're really saying is, I'm worried I'm not going to be able to pay you enough. You're not going to be happy, or you're going to be bored with the situation, or the other way around, because I see myself backwards in the camera. You get the idea. So number one, you combat that with, I'm all about joining the company, and I feel like I've been thoughtful in choosing you. And I'm putting my faith in you that if I do well, I'm sure you will figure out a way to pay me enough, right? Whether that's a bonus in arrears, whether it's a raise or a promotion in a year from now, or whenever it might be, I'm a long-term thinker, right? So I want to get in and establish myself, and I want to earn my reputation and trust and all that. And I am sure that you will right-size my comp. That's one way to approach it. Another way to approach it is, I'm not asking you to give me the money. I'm not overly concerned. I would love it if you were concerned that you couldn't pay me enough. We could make my compensation heavily performance-based. Now, so that I don't have to say this every single time, if it's me, I walked out already, but you're sitting there. So I'm assuming that if you're still hanging on and you still want to try to make this work, that you're going to be flexible on your compensation. This should be a tactic that you should be willing to say, because if it's not, then just get up and leave. Don't even worry about it. If you're overqualified and they can't satiate you financially, don't waste your time, right? But I would bet on me. So maybe let's make it heavily performance-based. That's another way to do this. So here's, come up with some kind of combination, a salary that you feel comfortable with, or that you think is a good compensation for the value I'm going to contribute. Give me an opportunity to earn those extra dollars through bonuses, commissions, MBO payouts, or stock units, or whatever it might be, or anything else that you would offer. Or we could make a bonus contingent on certain performance metrics, because my coach Andy is going to get mad at me if I don't ask you what success looks like in a year. So we should be able to target that. You can make it performance-based, back-end pay, however they want, because they want to take the risk off the table for them financially. They want you to bear the risk. They don't want to bear the risk, right? Because when they start paying your salary, they're not getting value for some period of time. All right, next thing is, What about the scope? Okay, so in this particular role as it is, if you feel that I'm overqualified for this role, I'd love to talk about what aspects of my background piqued your interest, other value that you think I could contribute, because there are other areas. Is it possible that we could expand the scope of the role to make it more commensurate with a heftier compensation package, right? Could we expand the role so that all the other responsibilities that I'm taking on and all the value I'm contributing warrant a higher payday? That's another investigative process. For those of you that go to the Andy School of Manipulation and Interviews and Negotiation, what are the 5 factors that are always at play in any interviewing process? 5. There's the goals that the employer has, the problems they have in achieving them, the solution that they think fixes, overcomes the challenges or problems, and attains the goal to the degree can be variable, the person in mind they think can do it, and what that person costs. If you change any of these throughout the interview process, I have videos on the YouTube channel that talk about this stuff. If you change any of these from the time you start interviewing to the time you finish interviewing, that compensation that they budgeted or targeted or thought about that they wanted to pay for that position has changed, right? Or at least you can make an argument that it has. So, right, it's not just can we expand the scope. I would start getting somebody thinking about these goals that you want me to achieve, that anybody in this position to achieve. What would be your best scenario? What would be like your stretch goal beyond your imagination? What would it be? What would it be? Could be how many. It could be how fast. It could be how cheap. It could be anything that they want to attain. If you could get them in a dialogue, this is advanced tactics here, but if you could get them into this dialogue, you know they're open to the possibility. And then at least you have a gauge of whether it's worth the fight. Okay? So the scope itself could be scope, meaning give me more things to do. It could also be, well, you wanted somebody, hey, I need a marketing person, by the way. If I get 100 leads a day, I want 500, right? So in my mind, I'm thinking, well, if you can get me 100 more, that'd be great, because I could get 100 on my own doing nothing, right? Or 200 or whatever, 300 or whatever our number is, right? So if I'm thinking I need 1,000 more leads a week, and you're telling me you can get me 10,000, well, that would just make me so happy, right? And I'd be willing to pay more for that. And then I wouldn't think you'd be bored, and then I would be able to pay you more, and then I think you'd be happy, kind of thing. So scope could be scope around anything. All right? Who's tracking? Right? We good? We good? All right, let me go on to the next one. All right, this one is, this is the one where you want to start getting them to envision some of those benefits that are not immediately quantifiable, but address pain. So I can add additional value, right? There's no learning curve. I walk in the door and I am ready baked on day one, right? You don't have to train me. There's no cost associated with it. Or I could mentor the others. Depends what the configuration and the ornogram looks like, right? Or is there anything of yours I could take off your plate? Because I'm so overqualified, I obviously could do your job, kind of thing, right? So you could go into this additional value that you can provide and then pick and choose what it is, how they will benefit, either personally, as a team, or as a company, because of your ability to do more because you're overqualified, right? So that's another element that I would look at. So if you're going to make the argument, just to recap these three, I want you to focus on the company, right? It's about you getting engaged in their mission. You support the company. You join a company. You don't join a job, and all that. This needs to be down cold. It needs to sound sincere, right? And well, I hope it is sincere, but you know what I mean. They can tell when you're not being sincere. The boredom, the salary issues, and so on, you want to address with, right? Either I have faith in you, or I'll take on the risk. You can make it more variable in pay, or we can expand the scope, or we can heighten the goal, or we can accelerate when you're going to get the ROI on me, or whatever it is. That's second. And then the third one, kind of the bread and butter stuff, is what additional value can you add? And then the last thing I want to say on this topic is in the follow-up, confirm in your thank you. So many of you that follow me and know how I feel about thank you messages, it's just a thank you email. I always like you to thank them for their time. First paragraph, maybe a sentence, middle body of the thank you email should be about why you specifically are a fantastic candidate for the role. Confirm something specific you talked about in the interview. And the third thing I like you to do is always mention how much you look forward to hearing from them and that you're more excited about the role based on the conversation they had. But in this thank you, in the wake of an overqualified remark, you also need to reassure them of some of these three components that I just talked about. Is you want to hit them again with this. It's like, I really want to drive this home. And I don't want it to be this long. I just want you to make sure that you're touching on your long-term goal, where you see yourself, how you want to contribute, whatever it is. And you could make that even part of the middle paragraph just to cement the things that you said during the session. Now, from a tactical standpoint, this is pretty much the gamut. Yes, there are some variations, but all in all, if this is something that you really want to try to salvage, these to me are the three best ways to go about doing it. The other thing is the other benefit of taking a shot at this is that you're positioning yourself maybe for the future. Maybe this role isn't right, but if you really connected and they were really concerned that you were overqualified and that they simply could get a less expensive employee that could maybe not give them everything you could give them, but the majority of what you can give them, it's a business and there are always trade-offs. But to me, those would be the things that I was going to do if I wanted to salvage it. All right, I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, click the thumbs up button. Make sure you subscribe to the station. If you're here with me live, we're going to the Q&A. If you're watching me on the recording, I'll see you next week.